and welcome back everyone to Frenemies. So lately there have come a lot of new friends, enemies and frenemies on board. So I want to take the episode today and talk a bit about what I have learned in the last 25 episodes of Frenemies since Frenemies started, and talk about what I've gathered from the guests, from my conversations with the previous co-host Ahmed, on why sales and marketing alignment is important, the 4 building blocks of starting with sales and marketing alignment, and then talk a bit about what I have learned personally and what's coming next with Frenemies and what's happening in the next episodes and for this season. So basically, I'm doing a little wrap up to catch everybody else up that doesn't have the time to go through all of the previous episodes, because as we all know, time is money, isn't it? So starting off with why sales and marketing alignment is important. Obviously, it's a big part of why I started Frenemies and started with this podcast, based on the experiences I had made in the B2B companies I worked in. And also in my interviews with the guests on figuring out what are the tendencies that they are seeing in their companies, in their consultancies, what is happening with B2B companies, what does strong sales and marketing alignment look like, and how can we even make a strong sales and marketing alignment even stronger, and why? So why sales and marketing alignment is so important? Well, first of all, and that is of course on the marketing side, because you are spending your budgets more effectively and making wiser investment choices. Why? Well, because conversion rates increase if you have a strong sales and marketing alignment, because you're heading towards the same road. You are investing in marketing initiatives that are actually paying off on the sales end as well. You are not looking at things on, okay, we see the impact. We are increasing the amount of leads we drive in. No, when you have a strong sales and marketing alignment, you look at the end outcome. And that is obviously revenue. So you increase and generate more revenue because you're spending wiser, you're spending there where you actually see the return. So again, on the marketing side, you increase the return on investment you get, which of course is super important. But additionally, that also means you are onboarding more customers, you're getting more customers, and hopefully also getting more happy customers. So that for me is the first big advantage of strong sales and marketing alignment. The second one is team and employee motivation. Because with a strong sales and marketing alignment, you have shared goals. And that, of course, in the end of the day is revenue. Both marketing and sales want to generate revenue, right? We want to impact the business. We want to bring growth to the business. That is something that connects all of us. But then, of course, can also be more goals. That can be changing the world with your product, bringing a fantastic product to even more customers. And these shared goals mean that everybody has more of a sense of belonging, which is something inherently human. We all want to belong to certain groups. So with a strong sales and marketing alignment, instead of just belonging within the marketing department or within the sales department, you actually are a team within sales and marketing as well. And that obviously can also include and should include other departments. But all of a sudden, you are working together towards a common goal. And that increases motivation and obviously also has a massive positive impact on the team atmosphere. Additionally, that also means if you are more motivated, well, then you also are more productive. So all of a sudden, you see a higher productivity and also less employee fluctuation. Because motivation and productivity most likely means that your team and you are happier. And that means you're going to be more fulfilled in your job. And you're not going to look for new opportunities that fast, right? So you actually create more stability. And again, a better team atmosphere. And the third part I mapped out on why sales and marketing alignment is important is, of course, because you are achieving business goals. When you have a strong sales and marketing alignment, you do have an understanding of what actually works and what actually drives impact. And that means you can also test more things because you have the strong foundation of what already performs, what already works. So you can actually take the risks to try new things, to be innovative, to launch out of the box ideas or invest in out of the box ideas, develop new approaches to how things are done, new approaches to how a company can be present at an event, what webinars can look like, and what campaigns look like, how your ads look like. All of these things you can innovate. And the same also on the sales side, how to reach out to prospects, how to engage with prospects. All of that can be innovated because you have a strong foundation on knowing what works. You have a strong foundation that is building the success for right now, but also the success for the future, because this demand you created, you're not going to lose out on this by investing 10% in a new idea that is not proven yet and that is not predictable yet because you haven't tested it. And that actually means you are building continuous growth because, of course, standing out is very important. And testing and innovating is a big part of getting there where you stand out and you test and measure what works for your company and for your product. And that doesn't have to be what everybody else is doing. Secondly, you are, of course, increasing market share. You're expanding to new markets. Whatever that business goal is for your specific company, you can actually achieve it because you're aligning sales and marketing. You are again thriving for the same goal, so you are achieving that. If you have a very strong demand generation engine where you're both creating demand, potentially creating a category, and you are also capturing that demand, which then sales can turn into customers, it means that you are increasing your market share, you're increasing your brand awareness and visibility, and ultimately that means that further down the line, you are what people are searching for when they want to read more about their problems and how to solve their problems. You are the first solution that is on their mind. And by aligning sales and marketing, you are optimizing your buyer's journey. And happy buyers make satisfied customers. So again, you're actually building the success of the now and the success for the future, because satisfied customers are loyal customers. And that means you are making a smoother path for the entire organization, because that means there's also a closer alignment between sales and customer success that enables loyal and happy customers. That leads me to the next point. The 4 building blocks of aligning sales and marketing. There are a lot of different things I could map out here, but I try to keep it to these 4 building blocks. So block number 1 is communication. Communication, when talking about aligning sales and marketing, for me means shared meetings, using the same language, and updates. Going now into these 3 shared meetings, this one is going to be an episode on its own within the next months of how to create meetings that help sales and marketing alignment. Because of course it can look very different for different companies depending on the size, both the size of the marketing department and the sales department, but also where they are located and so on and so on. But shared meetings between all levels of sales and marketing are very important. So meaning SDRs should know what is happening on the marketing side, what activities are going on, and what leads they are getting handed over. On the more leadership level, it should of course be forecasting and looking over the numbers together. With the account executives, it should be going over the pipeline together. So these 3 should build the baseline of communicating together and also learning from each other. So everybody is kept in the loop and knows what's going on and can adjust their approach based on that. Using the same language. Especially in marketing, we are guilty of charge of using a lot of acronyms. So aligning the language and actually, using the same language on what does it mean for us. For example, ICP. Do we all have a shared understanding of what the ICP is, who our buyer personas are? But also when it comes to KPIs and goals, are we speaking about the same things there when we're saying this is an MQL? Do we really have the same definition of what an MQL is? And then lastly, briefs and performance updates. That is something that I found incredibly helpful in aligning sales and marketing to create kind of standardized briefs for the sales department on the activities that are going on. And informing them about the activities that are going on to align this further. A very specific example is webinars. My goal with webinars is, of course, to get as much value out of them for us, but also to give as much value to people that are joining the webinar. And that, for example, meant for me that I was briefing the SDR team and account executives on the upcoming webinars so that they, for example, could, in their communication with prospects and potential buyers, bring up this webinar. So instead of trying to book a meeting, book a demo with a potential buyer, they could offer more information and more value to prospects and could say, by the way, we have this upcoming webinar. If you want to learn more about this specific topic, then come join that webinar. And that paid off a lot and was very well perceived because all of a sudden they had different tools to offer. And also just an account executive that is already in intense conversations with, or in intense communication with a prospect offering, by the way, if you want to learn more, is very well perceived because at the end what it shows is that the account executive cares and has an understanding for the person they're talking to and think this could be valuable to them. So that is one example of how briefs and including sales more in marketing activities has helped. But also with performance updates, I do mean going over also, of course, the performance of the marketing activities and the demand generation activities together to align on, okay, what we see on the marketing end, do we actually see that on the sales end as well? Because sales cycles are long. So you might be testing something or you might have just launched an activity, but until you can actually see what revenue it has generated is 3-4 months in the future, maybe even longer. So it needs this communication throughout the sales cycle to see, okay, how are the first conversations going with these people? What do you see on your end? Is that actually, has the quality increased? Do you think they can be qualified, or you already had to disqualify a lot of them or unqualify? Why is that? How can we make that better? Which directly leads me into the second building block of aligning sales and marketing, which is understanding. In the first place, I think it is a lot about understanding each other's roles, understanding what unites us maybe rather than what differentiates us, because of course how sales and marketing work is very different and it will always be very different. It's different departments, it's different tasks that are related. But if you enter conversations and shared meetings with trying to understand what is it that, for example, makes your job difficult right now, and both in sales and marketing, we are struggling at the moment. It's not an easy economic situation. The market is incredibly crowded. Each of us has a lot of competitors. So there are so many factors that are influencing both of our activities in sales and marketing that trying to understand what are you faced with, what are your current struggles, is really helpful in actually aligning rather than entering, well, this is what you see, this is what I see, and trying to differentiate it. The second part of creating more understanding between sales and marketing for me is about KPIs and goals. So looking at what are the things we are achieving together and again that unite us. I don't think it is that important actually that sales and marketing have the same targets. If they do, that is fantastic. That is a great setup to build a strong sales and marketing alignment. But the status quo in most companies is that sales and marketing don't have the same target, but having the same goals. And again, that is most likely generating revenue at the end of the day. But there can be other goals that can unite you, right? That can be increasing the amount of potential buyers reached, increasing the amount of your ICP being reached or your total addressable market, increasing market share or market expansion. So these goals can unite you. And when it comes to KPIs, also there again, talking the same language. If it's very clear what KPIs you have in marketing, and marketing has an understanding of what KPIs sales has, and again, that going through all layers of the sales organization, what KPIs does an SDR have, and what do they actually do day to day? What does their work look like? Versus what targets does an account executive have, creates a lot of understanding for what you are doing and is a great starting point to align, okay, how can we help each other achieve our goals? And the third point, understanding what factors impact your work. So for marketers to understand what factors impact if a deal gets closed or not, if a prospect or a lead gets qualified or not. What does an account executive call a great demo meeting? What would an account executive call an unsuccessful demo meeting, right? And the same on the marketing side. What does marketing call a marketing qualified lead or a high quality lead? And what would sales understanding be? What would their requirements be to say this is a high quality lead? It doesn't mean that you can always fulfill these requirements, but at least creating this understanding and understanding, okay, what are the viewpoints where we differ is, of course, a great point to align these and over time try to bring these closer together with the ultimate goal of actually striving for the same things. The third building block of aligning sales and marketing for me is standardization. I am a big fan of standardization because it means you are not flying a plane while building it. Standardization means there is a foundation of best practices and guidelines that you are building your activities on. And that goes across sales and marketing. So for me, the key levels that are included in standardization when it comes to sales and marketing alignment is playbooks. For me, that always is a sales playbook, which has all of the key information that, again, all levels of the sales department need to get a basic understanding. And of course, this can also grow over time. So it's actually very in-depth of all the things and knowledge they need to excel at their job. What does a pitch look like? What does an elevator pitch look like? What is the ICP? What are the user personas? What values do they get from the solution? What do satisfied customers say? What are great examples of customers that are using the solution and getting these values out of it? And so on and so on. But for me in marketing, that also means a playbook of this is how we are naming things. This is why we structure campaigns in the way we do. This is how we are referring to certain channels, and this is how we treat certain channels, or how active we are at certain channels. So for example, this is why we are posting every day on LinkedIn. This is our guideline to social selling. All of these things. So there is a clear understanding and guideline of how things are done that then can get built upon. And again, where you can be innovative and create new ideas that come on top, but that is a shared understanding within marketing that sales can access and also get an understanding of this is how we are doing things. It doesn't mean it's how we're doing things forever. This is how we're doing things right now. And if need may be, if things change, we can always adjust that, right? And things and playbooks should change. They should grow over time. And they shouldn't be a standard that stands forever. It should be constantly questioned and updated. which of course takes a lot of time, but it means that everybody is starting with the same foundation. That means that there are most likely no or very few outliers that do it the way they want to and individualize it. But a key minimum of standards and guidelines, best practices within a company should exist. The next part of the standardization already got named a little bit, ICP. Both sales and marketing, and of course also product and customer success, should have a very clear understanding of what is our ideal customer profile. And for me, this should be built on what are the customers that get the most benefit from our solution. So I would always rather go for a limited ICP or a rather small one and then broaden it than going the other way around. Because with a very detailed, clear ICP, you can predict the outcome because you know these are the factors that make satisfied customers. And then you can always broaden it and branch out to other company sizes, company segments, industries, and so on and so on. But focusing on the ideal customer profiles where you know they get a benefit is somewhat a safe bet, even though in this day and time it is not a safe bet, because our biggest competitor is the status quo, and that prospects just won't invest. Not in you, not in a competitor. They just stay the same, right? So being very specific on this, and then again, building on top of it, for me is a big part of building sales and marketing alignment. And lastly, also that one I already mentioned, but part of standardization for me is also a shared language and aligning what do we mean when we use these acronyms. And a lot of times these are, of course, also company specific. You might have different names for different things, but especially for onboarding and newcomers, it is incredibly important that they understand how these terms are used in your company. And this can even be a little bit of a fun employer branding thing, right? If you have your own terminology in certain aspects, I don't think it should go out of hand, but that can be a great part. And the fourth building block of sales and marketing alignment for me is planning. Marketing and sales need continuity to work. Marketing just won't be effective if you are changing course every week, if you are doing something else every week, right? It needs a continuous approach, and planning is obviously a big part of that. So for me, it is activity and campaign plans. So basically having a marketing plan. Right now is the perfect time to build a marketing plan for the next year, if you haven't done so already, or if it's not already in the works, and aligning this marketing campaign plan with sales. That doesn't mean that sales gets to influence or adjust this plan, but sales should be very aware of what is happening when. So they get the chance to be on board and part of that. And that means they can plan their activities as well, right? For example, if you are heavily investing in events, well, events are quite seasonal, right? Normally in spring and in fall, there are a lot of events, and then start of year, winter, and in the summer period, there's not many events. So that means sales can actually plan, okay, so there will be this and this many account executives present at these events. But what do we do with the rest, and how they structure their outreach prospecting activities, right? So this is a very important part. Secondly, testing. Plan ahead for tests and align on these tests. And sales might come with their own suggestions. Today, for some reason, I'm very focused on events. But for example, sales might come with, we want to test this event. How can we get this done? Can we share the investment for it? And so on and so on. But planning ahead for testing means that you actually already set a plan for taking risks and managing expectations, because when you test, you can't predict the outcome. And already planning this in, communicating this clearly is a great way to align sales and marketing. And lastly, when you already have a foundation of what your activities are going to look like, and it doesn't mean that this plan is not going to change over time. Of course, it also needs to get updated. Things are moving fast, sometimes need to be adjusted. But when you already have this foundation of this is a rough outline of what our activities look like, what campaigns are coming up, and what we're planning to do, prioritize, and invest in, that also means you're actually setting yourself up to be able to optimize. Because you have a clear communication between sales and marketing, which means you take feedback in, you assess how something worked together, and then you can optimize it. You can optimize your approach to the marketing activities, demand generation activities, events, but also you can optimize the buyer's journey together, which will always pay off. So these are my 4 building blocks of aligning sales and marketing: communication, understanding, standardization, and planning. A lot of these things I brought up here are going to be single episodes on their own, where I will dive a bit deeper into it, sometimes with a guest. But that is basically it. And now I want to talk a bit about what I have learned personally in the last 25 episodes of Frenemies. Well, so firstly, I just want to give a bit of the backstory. I wanted to do a podcast for quite a long time, and start of the year, I kind of just grabbed the opportunity and was like, okay, let's try this. I have this idea of making a podcast about sales and marketing alignment because it is a passion topic of mine, but also something I think is very important. And I basically just got started. And the main part of what I learned is that recording the episodes is the easiest part. As so often with content creation, the distribution is the part that actually is so much more important and takes so much more time. And a big part of what I learned as well is, well, first of all, it's of course the content format. So I think I learned a lot about the format of a podcast, but also the kind of content I want to create, and also embracing all of the things I don't know, but also I'm still pushing myself out of the comfort zone. When recording, especially, well, actually on both sides, recording an episode like today on my own is pushing my comfort zone. I'm just sitting here speaking into a mic, looking into a camera, and I love pushing my comfort zone in that way, but a lot of times it's also pushing my comfort zone when I interview guests. And obviously, I only invite guests that I highly respect and where I am so interested and excited to hear their experiences and to learn from them. And a lot of times that can be quite intimidating. So it is still sometimes very challenging for me in pushing my comfort zone, but in a very good way. But yeah, I mean, it brings out a bit of imposter syndrome. But I also there learned to embrace it and try to bring in my own voice. And yeah, that is what I'm going to continue doing. And on top of that, I, of course, learned a bunch of things about how to record a podcast, how to edit it, the different software that is needed, deciding when I want to use AI and when not. So there's a bunch of learnings in it from me here. And yeah, what's coming next with Frenemies? Well, obviously, there's going to be lots more episodes of Frenemies. There's going to be more episodes where I go in depth with a topic on my own. There are, of course, going to be lots more episodes where I invite guests. I already have a lot of great guests on the recording schedule for this season, talking more in depth, for example, about ABM, psychological safety, leadership, sales enablement, and lots of interesting topics. And I also want to do way more alignment. So with this season, I also want to go above the sales and marketing alignment and get customer success on board and get product on board and talk about alignment all around and the benefit everybody can get from alignment, but also how to work on alignment all across departments. And yeah, lastly, Frenemies is now official. We have an official email. So you are very welcome to share feedback, to share ideas for guests, for topics you would be interested in. Contact us at info@frenemies.nu. Thanks for listening, guys. Bye.